Welcome to Coffee with Casey. Leslie is our producer, our lovely producer, and with me today is Billy Sampson, who is one of our top agents on our team. And as this goes on, you'll see why. We developed Coffee with Casey to once a month come on and just talk about real estate, some topics. Today is probably one of the more important topics we'll ever talk about in real estate, and that is pricing. The difference between what we're about to say in the next 30 to 45 minutes, or however long it goes, is the difference between a seller making 114% of their assessment or 105% of their assessment. So that's a 9% swing in pricing. And I have some examples I can give you, unfortunately, of how that happens to some sellers. But what we're going to talk about today is how to price a house, how to price it to sell. Now, last year, we had 104 houses sell in an average of 16 days. And it's critical to sell a house in the first 30 days, and I'll go over that and show you why. So today we're going to talk about the 5 rules of pricing a house, how we do it, how we find our apples, compare apples to apples, how we'll move the price up and down in a price range. They will determine our range. How do we move it up and down the range? How do we apply our pricing thresholds to it? And in the end, if we, every week we launch 4 listings, because that's basically all we're going to do is 4 a week. 3 will sell, 1 will not, and then we'll focus on that house and why it didn't sell. Was it the pricing? Was it the condition? What are the comments of the buyers? And then we'll focus on that throughout the month and make sure that we get that sold, before the month is up. And the reason is, and I'm sure that they'll put a graphic up here, if you sell a house in the first 30 days, then the average, let's take a sample market like Vienna, like we took. If you sell in the first 30 days, the average was 114% of the assessed value, which if you take the assessed value, put the sales price on top, divide them, you'll find the sales price came out at 114% of the assessed value. For the homes in the same market area that stayed on the market for more than 60 days, they came out at 105% of the assessed value, or a 9% reduction in price. So the longer your home stays on the market, the less money you're going to get. So it's really important that we focus on price and how to come out of the gate, with the right price, the right condition, the right marketing strategy, the right everything. So our goal is to sell it basically not just in the first 30 days. Our goal is to create a panic for that house, a stampede if you will, and get that sold in the first weekend. Now last year we sold 64 houses in the first weekend. All of them were at or above list price. Some of them were bid up to 107% of the list price, far in excess of what the appraisal would be. Most that sold like that will get removal of a home inspection contingency, removal of an appraisal, but all of them will most certainly have backup contracts which give the security to the seller. So in 64 homes, that's how it happened. 84 homes last year sold in the first 30 days. So those are basically, that's what we're trying to achieve with every house. And that's what we'll go ahead and talk about today. Now the reason Billy's here today is because Billy, I recruited him out of the mortgage banking industry. Billy's a finance guy from Clemson. He's brilliant. We would take loans to Billy, and whereas it would normally take 30 to 45 days to close a loan, Billy did them in 10, which is unheard of. But he's so efficient and so good at the finance side of it that he'd storm rolling through and we have him in 10 days. So, I talked him into leaving mortgage banking, coming into real estate and joining our team. So all our sellers are lucky for it. Billy has been training with me on the pricing model and everything that we've been doing. So he's a good complement today to work with us on this. So we know we need to sell it in the first 30 days. We know it's going to lose price over time. Now you have to consider there are certain impediments, certain false reads that a seller is going to get that is going to make him make a mistake. And we really need to understand what those false reads are right now. The first one is Zillow and Zestimates and Realtor.com telling you what your house is worth. A computer algorithm cannot tell you what your house is worth. We'll do a pricing model on a house and take 4 hours to lock down what the price of this house is going to be. It's sometimes $100,000 less than what a Zillow estimate will be. Zillow estimates are so bad that they're being sued in a class action lawsuit by sellers and builders over putting these either underflated or overflated prices on properties. But a seller can look at that and say, my house is worth 1.175. Zillow couldn't lie. Well, they do not lie. It's just they don't know what they're talking about.
Misinformation.
Yeah, it's misinformation. So that's a false read that you can get. So forget about the Zillow estimate. Forget about the Realtor.com's estimate. There's another class of false reads that you'll get, and that is out of hungry real estate agents. So a hungry real estate agent, as explained by Ken Harvey in the Washington Post article that we can supply you, is an agent that really wants that listing. They need the listing. So they're willing to tell you whatever you want to hear in order to get that listing. It's called buying a listing. So a hungry real estate agent you may want 1.175 for your house. It's only worth $1,050,000. They'll say, oh, I definitely think we can get 1.175. So they'll get the listing. And they may show you his estimate or something like that to prove it. Well, that's called a false read. And again, in Fairfax County, 30 to 40% of the houses in Fairfax County withdraw or expire unsold, which means they're put on the market, they never sell, and they're withdrawn from the market. So that is a real hardship on a seller. It's difficult to put a house on the market for 4, 5, 6 months and then have it rejected, because you didn't in the beginning price it correctly or stage it correctly. So I want you to be aware of the hungry agents, I want you to be aware of those estimates, and let's just go from scratch. Here are the 5 ways, and if I miss something, Billy's gonna jump on me and come right in and tell me what it is. But the first thing that we need to do, and by the way, for those of you that are online and watching it, you can go to CaseySampson.com. On my toolbar up on top, it has a seller section, and the first selection in the seller section is pricing your home. You can follow right along in that if you like. It's got charts, it's got graphs, it's got statistics and all that good stuff. But let's start. So, how do we price a house? The first thing we need to do, and again, in our 5 things that we're going to talk about, every one is critical. You can't do one without the other 4. All of them are critical. So the first one that's critical is apples to apples. We're going to sell an apple. Well, we need to find like-kind properties, okay? And I don't mean, I went in one day and a seller said, well, all my properties are, the other 3 agents, all top producers, came in at $1.4 million. And I was locked in at 1.325, not a penny more than 1.325. And I was like, how could they come up with $1.4 million list price? So I said, I need to see their comparables. I looked at their comparables. They were all in downtown Vienna. Now, downtown Vienna is an orange or a pineapple compared to a house that's 2 miles outside of the town that's more of a country feel, and they are not comparables for that house. So what makes an apple, okay? Well, the first thing you got to make sure you got the same type house. Is it a colonial? Is it a split level? Is it a split foyer? You can't compare a split foyer to a split level. You can't compare a split level to a colonial. You have to compare colonials to colonials. So the first thing we need to figure out is what kind of house is it? Second thing we need to figure out is what's the size of the house. In other words, square footage. And if there's one massive misconception in square footage.
And square footage, when we talk about square footage, we talk about above grade core space, which does not include the basement. So it's taxable living space, your first and second floor above grade, which a lot of times sellers and buyers can get misinformed by either Zillow or their parents or another misinformed agent or something like that. You don't include the basement, and it's just the first and second floor above grade.
And the reason for that is if you have a basement that's unfinished, well, you can finish that square footage for $35 a square foot.
Right.
Whereas a kitchen or a bathroom or a living room or a dining room, those are, I mean, that square footage goes for $300, $400 a square
Your
foot.
core space is what Casey and I like to call it.
So the first thing we need to do is make sure we're only talking about above grade square footage. Now, let's say we have a colonial and it's a 2,400 square foot colonial, then we can only go to 2,600 colonials to 22. So we'll go from 2,200 square foot colonials to 2,600 square foot colonials. Again, we will search for now we talk about geographical location. We can go out 1 mile and no more than 1 mile because that has the same traffic flow, shopping, schools generally, all the important things that this house has.
And a lot of times Casey and I will start with the neighborhood. So the neighborhood will give you your best indicators. And if you can't find something in your direct neighborhood, then we'll stretch it out to a half mile and then into a mile. But we typically never go out past a mile.
Right.
In our location.
Now, if we have some agents that are in Culpeper. We have some agents that are at Percival. You can go out 5 miles out there,
right?
Or 7 or 10 miles. They have the same attributes of the house you're trying to do. So, but usually you can find them near it. Now, let's talk about going to the neighborhood. The neighborhood, we can go back. In other words, instead of going back 120 days, we'll go back a year or 2. And again, we'll talk about growth charts here in a minute when we start talking about comparing them. But, those are very important. So neighborhood is important. Price, square footage is important. What is your assessment? We want to look at the assessment of the other houses that are getting sold. So we're now kind of focusing in on, it's kind of like that Cars.com commercial where every time he said something, most of the cars would disappear. We got to start with 12,000 houses on the market. We got to wheedle it down to the 6 or 8 that are most comparable to your property.
Which does include age as well. You missed age.
Age.
So if something's built in 1970, we'll go back 5 years to 65 and up 5 years to 1975. You can't compare a house that was built in 1970 to a house that was built in 2010.
Right. That's exactly right. So now we have 1980 class houses that are 2,400 square foot, a little bit up, a little bit back, 1 mile radius that have sold within the past 120 days. The neighborhood, we can go back, and we do 2 separate pricing models, as you can see on here, one for the neighborhood and one for the 1 mile radius. Neighborhood is most reliable, okay? Because there are neighborhood premiums, and hopefully Billy will remind me to talk about neighborhood premiums as we go along. So we're now comparing apples to apples, and basically this is the key to building a pricing model, is making sure that we have enough comps, the right comps, to make this happen. So I think that's the main criteria that we're looking for when we put this together. Now we need to compare the apples. Now, I often ask sellers, can you show me the competitive analysis of some of the realtors? And they show me they'll show me some 5 or 6 houses that have just a printout from MRIS. I mean, I literally glaze over. That doesn't mean anything to me. I don't understand what they're saying when they just show me a bunch of houses. I need to compare the house. I need to compare the square footage. So what we do is we have displays that we create and spreadsheets that we create. And actually you can see them. You can see what it looks like on CaseySampson.com in that seller section. You'll see what's a pricing model. And basically what it does is it takes the active houses, the under contract houses, and the sold houses and compares them. It compares days on market. It compares, bedrooms, bathrooms, but more importantly, square footage of the house, lot size, which is important.
Assessment.
The assessment will be on there. The list price will be on there. On the solds, you'll have the sold price on there. So if you take each one of those properties and say, give me the price per square foot of each property, give me the percentage of assessment for each property, and let's take a look and see where we end up. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to give me a range of, if we're in a 30-year-old neighborhood, well, some people have taken great care of their houses, and some people haven't. So it will start to go like this, and you'll have a bigger and bigger range as time goes on. So the first thing we need to do is let's determine the range, and let's look at the price per square foot, the average, the high, the low. Let's look at the percentage of assessment, the high, the low, and see if they work together. If they're working together, then it's pretty easy for us to determine what the range of that house is going to be. Okay?
And first off, I don't want to step on your feet, but when determining price per square foot, we take the list price divided by the square footage.
Right.
So you take your square footage, first and second floor above grade, and you divide that by the list price.
Right. So in the example I have up on my website, the first house is 3,541 square feet. Its list price was $769,000. So the price per square foot was $217 a square foot.
Right.
Now, when we get all these out, we're going to sit back and look at the model and go, this is an anomaly. I mean, this is just way too low. And this one's way too high. Because sometimes people either beat up a house or just overdo it. You know, they'll put in too much things. But we're looking for the median. You know, we're looking for that good core price range. So we may throw out a high and throw out a low if something's skewing the numbers.
Right.
So we look at the actives. What's everybody on the market for? $340 a square foot? Okay. What's everybody selling for? About $310, $315. Okay. So I can determine that the reason these are on the market and still on the market is because they just overpriced them. Not that the market is soft, but they just overpriced these houses. Let's look at the under contracts. And again, when we're talking about moving you up and down a scale, we're trying to determine market strong, market weak. How many do we have under contract? 6. How many are active? 2. Okay. Got a pretty strong market. We're going to be more aggressive with our pricing. If we have 6 on the market and only 1 under contract, we're not as aggressive with our pricing. Okay? Because we need to also calculate in, as we're looking at this, reading the market, as we're comparing our apples. Are there too many apples on the market, or are there all the apples are getting eaten up as soon as they get thrown on the market? So that's an important thing to do too. Now we're pretty much starting to fine tune our way into the price per square foot of this type house and the range that it would be. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do what's called a growth chart. So I'm going to go back. Now I'm going to tighten up that range, tighten up the neighborhood, and I'm going to go back 10 years, 12 years. And I'm going to say this house, this size, what is the average price per square foot over the past 12 years? And you'll see a chart, and the graph is right here on the page. Then what I'll do is I'll take your neighborhood, and I'll take the neighborhood sales over the last 12 years, and I'll plot them on that same graph. Now, what that's going to tell me is, it's really fascinating. You can look at it and say, well, your neighborhood sells at 6 to 7% consistently higher than the rest of the market. So that's called a neighborhood premium. So let's take Lakeville. They have a pool. They have a association. They have a
Name.
They have a name. They have a pool,
Yeah.
and they have a lake.
Oh,
So hence Lake
Thanks,
Vale.
Julie.
Thank you, Julie. The ever lovely Julie, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Look, I got to stop for this 1 second. I know the nuts and bolts and A's and B's and price per square foots and all that stuff. And we'll get back to all that in the growth charts. I just have to tell you, people like Julie, we have an incredible team. We have a phenomenal team. In fact, the other day, I kind of compared our team to the Nats. And Billy is our Bryce Harper, our young, talented kid with all the talent in the world. And then you have Kelly, that's Ryan Zimmerman. And, Julie does just the most incredible work for our sellers in that she takes all of the stuff that we have, she packages it up, she gets it out on social media. Well, we're nothing without Julie. Our sellers are nothing without Julie. That's what takes our properties and throws them out into the marketplace on Facebook, identify where these buyers are, how we're going to find them. That's a powerful resource. And if you saw last week's show, you know that today's real estate market is about targeting the buyers and going outbound and getting them in social media. Julie is the catalyst for that around here. She just does a phenomenal job. I mean, our team is great, and I hope you get a chance to work with Billy or Pam or Pat. And as the Coffee with Casey goes on, every week or every month when we do this, Billy will be this week, so you get a chance to meet him. Pam will be in here doing a show with me. Kelly will be in here doing a show with me. Colby will be in here doing a Pat. I don't think Pat does cameras, does he?
No.
Yeah, I don't think he does. Pat's a behind the scenes guy. Very good, very good. But I don't think we're going to get him on camera. But every month I want you to meet somebody from our team, and you'll see they're all, you know, just phenomenal people. So let's get back to our growth chart. So if we look at how the rest of the market has done, and then we look at how houses in your neighborhood have done, you're going to start to say that this neighborhood has a premium, or this neighborhood is really takes a hit. Maybe it's just a bad location. Maybe there's something negative affecting this neighborhood. So we do the growth charts. So now I have a price per square foot, I have a percentage of assessment, and I have a growth chart. So the growth chart basically is reaffirming that I'm on the button with that price per square foot. It's incredible how accurate this is, and how somebody could come up with any other number when we walk into a house is really beyond me. So because of that, we can walk into a seller, and we'll talk about thresholds here in a second, tell him unequivocally, this is exactly where this house is going to appraise at. Now, what we do is when we have the price per square foot, then upon inspection of the house, we will determine where up and down you're going to be on that group. Let's say our price per square foot is anywhere, its average is $320, but we've had a $340 and we've had a $305. So where are you in that group? Well, updated kitchens, updated bathrooms, renovated kitchens, renovated bathrooms are the two most important things. Flooring is important. Condition is important. Lot is important. So, you know, so again, when everything's being important, you need to say, I've got the core numbers. Now, where does your house fit in this picture? Are you one of the top? Are you one of the bottom? If you don't have a renovated kitchen and you don't have a renovated bathroom, what does that cost to do it? Because I can tell you a buyer is going to want to do that. So with that, then applying all of the pluses and minuses, ups and negatives, we can tell you this is basically where your house is going to appraise at, or this is where buyers are going to probably pay for your house. Okay? So now we've compared our apples to apples. We've chosen our apples. We've compared the apples 3 different ways. Neighborhood, 1 mile radius, growth chart. Back in time. Once we're done with that, we're pretty much locked in. We go out and inspect the house. Now we're really getting locked in. So let's say we determine, like we did at well, I'll give you one that's launching today. I'll give you one of the best houses you'll ever see in at least in Vienna. We are launching today 321 Air Hill. Now Air Hill, the 300 block of Air Hill is between Beulah and Glendon. And anyone of you that know about Vienna know that road. That's Joey Wooten, and that's just these big $1.9 million houses. It's back to Glendon Park. It is just that one road that, you know, Vienna just loves. And everyone loves to be on that road. It's one of the few that will support a $1.9 million house. Spring Street, Air Hill 300 block, Nelson and Druid Hill. Those are probably your top 3 groupings of streets where you want to be. So Air Hill comes out, we price it, and we say, you know, it's pretty much locked in at about 1.6, 1.625. A little harder to price the bigger boys. So now we're going to talk about applying our threshold. So now me and the seller know that we're at between 1.6, 1.625. Seller wants 1.65, which is not unusual that sellers obviously have a premium on their houses. Now this is a Tommy, you know, what are the advantages? Tommy Stotts built this house. It's got an incredible lot. It's a walk to Vienna kind of thing. It's got that special neighborhood. So what is the value of that neighborhood? Well, we're estimating it is between 1.6 and 1.625. So where do we price the house? Now we apply thresholds. And thresholds are, what do buyers search for? If you're in a $750,000 house and let's say it's worth $760,000, well, we would price it at $750,000. Why? Because this is how many buyers there are under $750,000, and this is how much buyers there are over $750,000. So let's just get them all. Let's get as many people in as we possibly can. Let them bid on it. So the house was worth $760,000. I don't know, 50, 60 people came through an open house. 30 people showed the house. we got a final contract of $790 all cash, no contingencies, and just went to settlement about a couple weeks ago. So had they gone on where they wanted to at $775, that whole classification of people may have been gone, and that buyer may have been in that group. So what you want to do is be wary of the threshold. So let's go back to Air Hill. Air Hill is, we're at that 1.6, 1.625. If we go to 1.625 on our pricing, well, we lose all the people under $1.6 million. So again, every time you go up, you're losing 30, 40, 50% of your market. So if we were to go 1.625, nobody that goes on to Zillow and says, show me everything under 1.6. We lose them all. We miss every one of them. So we priced it at 1.99. Agent, what I do?
1.599.
1.599, just under $1.6 million. So if somebody's in there looking at 1.6, we're in the show. Now an agent will call me up and go, what's the price? Well, the price is 599. 1599. But we're not expecting 1599. The only reason I'm pricing it at 1599 is because we think it's worth 1625 and I don't want to miss this whole classification. So we're setting expectations up front that, yeah, you're going to love this house. Yeah, it's great. It's not a 1.599. It's really a 1.625. But for marketing's sake, we want to do it. Now, does this work? Well, 64 houses last year sold in the first week. We had some houses that went off at 725 and got 771. Now the house appraised 725. People get crazy. When they bid on houses, people get crazy. They do tend to, there's two things that drive markets, fear and greed. And the fear that somebody else, when a wife looks at a husband and goes, I want that house. He says, we've already lost a couple houses. And let me give you one, I'll give you just one example. 875 is a house I priced. Thought it was worth 880, 885, maybe 885. So lady comes in, we have one contract at 875. This is first weekend. I said, well, ma'am, I need highest best offers Monday by 5 o'clock. What are you trying to say? Got other contracts? Expecting other contracts. So she came back at 917, bumped her price $42,000 because she had to have this house. She had lost 6 houses. So she bids 917. There were no other buyers. That was it. She bid against herself. She pumped it up $42,000, and that's the power of just the thought of having somebody else take this house from you. Now the neighbor, on the other hand, exact same house, same square footage, same everything. They saw that and said, "Sell my house, 925." I said, "No, 875. If you want to get up there, you got to go 875. It only appraised for 875." So, no, 925. Like an idiot, I took the listing. I don't know why I did, but I did. 6 months later, they get 850 with a $10,000 hit on the home inspection. So they end up with 840. So they priced it higher. They ended up with 840. The person that priced it where I told them to ended up with 917. Now, I don't know what the delta is there. It's probably about $70,000 bucks. And that's not unique. If you owe, well, there's your 9%. When we talk about selling after 6 months or after 60 days and first week, there's a delta. There's a difference of 9%. There's your 9% right there. $70,000 on $800 and some odd $1,000 house. So we've seen this over and over and over and over and over again. We won't take a listing because an agent has told them this is what it's worth and we know it's worth this. So we just don't take the listing and say go with the other agent. And we track those listings just to make sure that we were on it. And so 85% of our portfolio of all of our listings are all under contract at this time. And we'll look at the watch list of the ones that we missed, and 9 out of 10 of them are still active, still in the market, unsold, 90 days, 100 days, 250 days. Now, the one that sold has been on for 280 days. They dropped the price where we had originally said, now it's under contract, but they just spent 180 days. And I guarantee you they're gonna lose. I don't know what the final price is, but I can tell you they're gonna lose. So please, focus on your pricing, get the right price, apply your thresholds. over and over again. If we're close, let me tell you one. Billy and I are doing one on Electric Avenue. It really did. It came out just locked in at all indicators are 975. Everything pointed to 975. So 975 it is. Okay? But had it been 985, we'd have still gone to 975. So if you get pretty close to a threshold, we'll stay with that threshold. But if you're just over a major threshold, and Park or Air Hill is clearly just over that big, massive $1.6 million threshold, there's not a lot of people saying, well, give me everything over 1.6 Indiana. We got 4 people. So we don't want to miss that massive group under 1.6. So that is applying the thresholds. Now we get everything ready, and I guess that's the number 4 thing that we do. So we get our apples. We're very, and let me tell you something. If you get a bad apple in there and it skews you, it throws everything off. So you must be diligent about getting the right apples. Comparing them, it takes us, we go over and over and we'll argue over it and look at it and go back and forth with it. We'll go back and do more price charts or more growth charts. We'll debate going up and down the scale, but a lot of times we're in total agreement. This is where we need to be. Apply the threshold. Hopefully the seller is, if let's say a seller's property is worth 760 and we're locked in at 760. Well, the people at Creek Crossing, they really want 775. There's no way we appraise over 750. There's no way. And 775 may not have got us the action that we were looking for because the assessment was so low. So, you put on 750, they get 790, they get more than what they were hoping for without having to worry about an appraisal. We have sold houses. We have had people put their house up higher than an appraisal. Palace Green is one. We're looking at 850 to 860. Have to have 895. Julie does an incredible job of social media marketing to young professional couples in historic districts of DC, Georgetown. We get one young couple out of Capitol Hill, exactly who we described. The house on the market for 644 days, unsold. Julie tracks these people down. We get them, and we sell that house in 30 days. During Christmas, it appraises for 860. We did get a contract for 895, but it appraised for 860. Remind me to talk about neighborhoods and how neighborhoods are harmed by overpricing. So what happened was the neighbor right next door had been on also for 180 days. They sold cheap. It screwed our appraisal up. So before you know it, our seller, instead of getting 895, got 860, $35,000 out of her pocket. Because it's not only her, the neighborhood's doing it wrong. The neighborhood is doing it wrong. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. How you can build your neighborhood back up. So, as I said, the 5th part of this is compare our apples. Get our apples, compare our apples, slide up and down the scale, apply our thresholds. Bam, we throw them on the market. 3 sell. First weekend, multiple contracts. In fact, we had one the other day, had 17 contracts on it. The one that doesn't sell, now what do? We keep an eye on it, and you have to go back and reprice it. Now, for a realtor that says, I can get you, and again, don't get me wrong, I don't want to smash realtors. They do a great job. But if they say I can get you 775 and it's only worth 750 and it sits, they can't come back to you and say, hey, we got to drop it to 750. They said, wait a minute, you said you give me 775. So the realtors stop. They can't tell you they screwed up. I screw up all the time. I think Billy and I do the best job you'll ever meet of putting the price on a house, but hey, only 3 out of 4 of them sell in that first weekend. So the next phase is to go back and reprice and say, okay, these are the facts as we know them, and this is the opinions of the buyers and the agents, and here's the comments, and maybe we underestimated the value of that road. By the way, let's talk about, if you can remember, talk about the value what is a busy road worth? What does that cost off your house? How do you take into account it? Let's just say this is elementary school stuff compared to the college stuff that we would do on some of the houses that we have to really work on. So, so we go back and are very honest with sellers and go, okay, we give it 2 weeks, we give it 3 weeks. Well, about 23 days, if it's not sold, there's something wrong. In a market like this, we do have buyers. I don't care if the average time on the market is 65 days. That's because a lot of people are overpricing our houses. That's all we're focused on, our houses. Why is that not selling? 23 days is an eternity for one of our listings. Reprice. What did we miss? What's new? Real simple. We have one in Hidden Valley. I'm telling you, the house comes out at $940. $940 if it's a nickel. It's a great house. It's a beautiful house. Guys have made that house look fantastic. They put all the upgrades into it. It looks great. Why is that not selling? Some knucklehead in that neighborhood just sold one for $825. A little smaller. Just beat the heck out of it. It was a horrible house. Sold it for $825. Crushed our guys. That's why we're not getting any traffic. Everybody says, why are you at $925 and they're at $825? And it really hurt. So we had to come back, make an adjustment, get under that $900,000 threshold, see if we could generate traffic. So let's say that we have 3 cars that are running great and one that's kind of got a sputter, and we got to go back under the hood and figure out what went wrong. So the last part of this is to reprice, and that takes being very honest with the seller, say, this is what we know. And all Billy and I, and when I go in with other pricing and Colby and Kelly, all we're going to do is present sellers with facts. These are the facts as we know them. And you can determine what price you want to put on a house. So we don't price the house. We just give advice to a seller. Seller prices the house. All we do is say, we can't live with, we can't do that. I'm not going to have Julie and Billy running around like crazy doing all this great stuff for a house that's $150,000 over value. It's a waste of everybody's time. So, we don't do those. But, so we'll go back, and the 5th step is repricing the house. Okay? So when we reprice, that's why 84 of our houses sold at 84 houses last year sold in under 30 days. 64 sold in the first week. We had 116 sales or something like that. What happened to the rest of them? Hey, Jim, we really need to reprice this. No, I'm pretty comfortable. I'm good. I'm good right where I am. Don't worry about it. Leave it be. I'm fine. Builder, new homes. Sometimes those homes sit a little bit longer. So, those are the anomalies, but I can guarantee you if something, if we ever get a withdrawal, now understand, some agents have 50% of their houses withdraw. Throw them on the market. Some of them have 30, 40 houses on the market. Hey, if they sell, they sell. Oh, let me tell you this. Buy your house.
You're going to get to that?
If you can't, that grinds my gears, as Kelly would say. If I can't sell your house, I'll buy your house. That lady has 75 withdrawals last year. Why didn't you buy the houses? Couldn't sell 75 of them. Why didn't you buy it? So, in my opinion, that is the worst type of false advertising that I've ever heard. If I can't sell your house, I'll buy it. Although I did have 75 that withdrew unsold and I didn't buy. That's a terrible model. Because if I was going to buy your house, I have to buy it, closing cost, sit on it, carry cost, sell it, selling cost. Risk of market could be, we just said, is 99%. So when I would have to buy your house, in order to make it fiscally responsible for me to buy your house, I'd have to buy it at about 75 cents on the dollar. Now, if you've got $1 million house and somebody walked in and said, I'll give you $750,000, I'll give you $800,000 for your house, what would you do? I'd throw them out the damn door. Because that's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to buy your house. You're trying to sell your house, maximum numbers, squeeze as much as you can, cost efficient. Why is it going in 30 days? Because everybody's on the internet, everybody's looking at it. It's instant gratification. The best buyers have been looking for 3 months. They've lost 4 contracts and they're just waiting for something to come on the market. When it comes on, they pounce. That's today's real estate. That's the model. I wouldn't even get into the 4.5%. You know, we charge 4.5% on our listings instead of 6. That's a whole different ballgame, you know, when we talk about that. But the most important thing for us is price it and sell it. For you, price it and sell it. And lower commissions just keeps your costs down and puts more money in your pocket. So let's talk. Let me double back here now about some of the things that I think are very, very important. So I'm going to take a neighborhood, and the neighborhood has some very high-profile realtors that market like crazy in there. But what they do is, it is a really unique neighborhood, and it does have a premium price that should be on these houses because it is unique. You've got to target a unique kind of buyer. So it's not the 9 out of 10 buyers, it's a more unique buyer. But there should be a premium because of the quality of the homes and things like that. But what happens is, instead of putting it up 5%, they'll put it up 15% or 20% more than it should be. It sits. It sits. It sits. Look at the homes in your neighborhood. Find out what the average home in your neighborhood, how long it's on the market. If it's on the market for more than 30 days on average, whoever's selling real estate in that neighborhood is doing it wrong. And I don't care about McLean or Great Falls. I mean, I went into Great Falls, there was 42 houses on the market unsold. Seller looked at me and said, well, what makes you a Great Falls realtor? I'm not a Great Falls realtor, but I know how to price houses, and you got 42 of them on the market here, and none of them are under contract. So whoever's doing that, and I don't think I think they're having problems out here. So we went in, we priced the home correctly, we sold the house. When the house was under contract, I do beat the table a lot, don't I? Mm-hmm. Huh? Is that why you got a cushion now? Because I beat your table and you needed a cushion.
Camera.
I shake the camera. So the last one, the camera's like bouncing like this, And oh, by the way, I got rid of the stuff behind me that was the wires were all hanging down. Thank you, Julie. So when I'm done, there's one house under contract in Great Falls and 42 still active on the market. Well, what? You're saying that $2 million houses can't be sold? That's a bunch of hogwash. You just have to make sure that there is a buyer market out there. You have to hit it. You can't put more prestige on a house than it's supposed to. If you price a house too high, and in that neighborhood, what happened was all the houses, the agents want those listings, so they pump the price to an unrealistic thing. It sits. Well, once it sits for 160 days, what are you going to get? Deterioration of value. The house next door to mine lost, I don't know what it lost, but it shouldn't have sold at 909, but it did, and it was big, and it was on for too long, and that's what drove the price down. So, and by doing that, it hurt my house. It hurt the house that we just came in and sold that had been sitting on the market for 644 days with another realtor. So how do you stop that? How do you stop that nonsense? You have to get together as a neighborhood. When you go in, you need to price it at a number that it's going to appraise at and let the market bid it up. If the market will bid it up, now you have a comp that is over what it would appraise for. And then the next one will appraise here. You put it on not up here, where it'll eventually come down here. Put it where it's supposed to be. Then let everybody bid it up when the prices get bid up. Perfect example, Franklin Farms, Colonial, 2,700 square feet. It's going to sell for about $730,000. We put it on for $725,000. Created a firestorm. Julie created a firestorm for that house. 60 people through. $771. It only appraises for $730, $725, $730. That's all it appraises for. Now, when an appraiser walks in here, he's got a $771. That's the way you build up a neighborhood. That's the way you rebuild prices. It's not top down, it's bottom up. So, if you're going to be smart, and I'm hoping Sampson Realtors are tuning into this, or at least, catch some of this before. Stop this, which we don't. We work on pricing a lot. Get it here, let them bid it up, and that builds up the neighborhood. So, and we don't care if we don't get a listing. If we don't get a listing, we don't get a listing. That's okay. What we care about is the listings we take, sell, and the listings and the sellers are in a position, because there is nothing worse than having a house on the market for 60 days, have somebody walk in you with 42 items on a home inspection and say, fix them.
You want to touch on how we get above appraisal? You keep talking about, set it at the appraised value, 725 or 750. It bids to 771 or 790, and we get to keep 771 or 790 as opposed to getting that appraised value.
Right. The key word is you go into the appraisal contingency, if there is one. Go into the appraisal contingency and say, must appraise at or above the list price, not the sales price. It's written in as sales price. Cross out the word sales, put in the word list. Initial it. Do you want the house? Initial it. We just asked for 725. So all I'm saying is, all we have to appraise for is 725. I really don't care where it appraises for. But you said 771. So I need to see, $50,000 or $45,000. I need to see, you need to come back to me if you want this house with the letter from your banker that says I can come up with an extra $45,000 if the appraisal doesn't come in. We're setting expectations that the appraisal is only going to come in at our number. We're forcing them to prove they can still go to it. So we know that we can appraise at that number. So and Billy's point is that, again, when we say this, well, what's important? It's all important. What if you forgot to put that in? What if you forgot in the appraisal contingency and you just left it at must appraise at the sales price? You offered 771. We go down the road 21 days. It appraises for 725. What's the seller going to get? 725. Now it's negotiable. It's negotiable. Okay? The seller can say, go pound sand, we'll put it back on the market. The buyer, what normally happens is the buyer and seller agree to an agreeable number. But let's just say that it does come in at 725 instead of 771, and they meet somewhere in the 755 range. Seller just lost 25 grand, 20 grand, because you didn't put in the word list price. If it comes in at list price, go to your appraisal contingency. Make sure that it says that, it's a Seinfeld commercial. It's a Seinfeld episode. Anybody can take and get big listings. It's keeping the money. We want to keep the money. Anybody can get big offers, but we want to keep the money from the offer. I want to keep the 771. We don't want to give up any of it, okay? Our job is we're hired guns for our sellers to make sure we get best price, best marketing, best contract negotiations, best number, keep that number, get it to settlement, get through the home inspection for as little damage as possible. So this pricing thing determines, I'm gonna go off topic just real quick. Next week I have to talk to a Hispanic Realtor Association, and they want to talk to me about negotiating, okay? How do you negotiate? Well, as Billy will tell you, we coach football, I've done it for 34 years, but that season is basically over in June or July. Now, we're not gonna have our first game till the third week of September, but let me tell you something. In June, it's over. If we get the right players, if we get the right team, if we get everything put together in the summertime, trust me, winning's gonna happen. It'll just happen. We put it in the process, we work our tails off, it's just gonna happen. So we're gonna determine whether we win or lose in June, not in September, not in November. We already have the horses, we know what we need, we got the right tools. So the same thing is in real estate. How does that apply to real estate? Well, it's all over the second the seller agrees and says, yeah, I'm with you. The second that seller said, I'll do 1599. Maybe he had experience that, he'd seen this or done this before, he was just a smart seller. As soon as he said, I'll do 1599, you win, and you win big. Had he said, I'll do 175, he's gonna lose, and he's gonna lose big. So there is no negotiating. The negotiating is done in June for the football. The negotiating for the real estate is done when we set the price. Now, if we set the price correctly, we are in control of the contracts that come in. If we don't set it correctly, we aren't in control. So you could be the best negotiator, salesperson, I could be the greatest contractor, but you know what? If nobody's gonna come look at the house, I don't get any contracts, I'm dead. I got nothing to negotiate. I have no leverage. We got nothing. And so my negotiating power, so it's all about leverage. You wanna be a good negotiator? Have the leverage. If I have 7 contracts in, who's got the leverage? We do. Who doesn't have the leverage? One of the 7 contracts. So they don't have, so you always wanna put yourself in a leverage position where you have control. Negotiate a home inspection release. There's 2 different ways. One, the lady that the two houses, one 875 and one 925. 875. Lady paid 917 for it. Had 7 things on the home inspection, and I went, ah. That's all I did. I went, ah. And she goes, never mind. Just never mind. I'll get my husband to fix it. We'll do it. Don't worry about it. That's all I did. I just went, ah. Now, the other one, it was on for 6 months. It sold for $850. They had $10,000, $12,000 on the home inspection. The guy says, fix them. I'm like,
Okay.
He goes, look, I'm going to walk. You fix them or we're gone.
First buyer you've seen in 6 months.
Sure. Next word out of my mouth. Sure. What do you want fixed? What are you going to do? Walk from the guy? So anyways, the negotiating is done when you set the deal. And the deal is set prior to listing, prior to everything. When you do your pricing, you're going to know whether you have the negotiating power or the leverage or you don't. So we've gone over pretty much our listing thing. You can go to caseysampson.com. You can look in the seller section. The first thing right out of the gate is price your home. How to do it. You'll see graphs and charts, and I'll have to update them because I see that, you know, they have some that may be a little outdated. I'm sure you and I can throw in some a better, you know, pricing model or pricing model and growth chart than that. So we'll update those things so you can take a look at them. But clearly, these are the mechanics of the most important part of the real estate transaction. Now, I don't know how this Facebook thing works. If anybody has any comments or questions or anything, they can certainly throw them out there. Do they do that on Facebook? They have a comment or a question or anything like that?
Yeah, normally they're not rolling through right now, but I think they're on there. If you want to go to the Facebook page, you can see if you can see them.
I'm gonna sound like an anti-millennial, but
Never mind. That will be for episode number 3.
I'm on Casey's Facebook, so.
All right. So we'll come back next week with another edition of Coffee with Casey. We hope you have this. I'm sure that Leslie and Julie are going to get together. They'll edit this. They will put in graphs and charts, and Billy will provide them with some new graphs and charts that they can put in. They'll post it at caseysampson.com. If you go to the blog section, they have a little episode 1, episode 2. I'm sure they'll be in there. And you can look at this. But if you're planning on listing or selling your house, certainly give us a call. We're not going to tell you what your house is worth. We're going to prove what your house is worth. And then you can determine where you want to be. But anyways, we hope to see you in the future. If you need anything, give us a call, 703-508-2535, or check us out at caseysampson.com. This is Billy Sampson. Leslie's behind the mic, and we appreciate all you've done, Leslie. And we will see you guys next month.
Thank you.